Hello and thanks for staying with us. Welcome to Political Platform on Raypower FM and Africa Independent Television AIT. My name is Amici Anapwem. On the program today, we will examine the controversy that is raging and surrounding allegations that Adeni Matthew, who laid claim as the Director General of the Presidential Foreign Intervention Promotion Council, bribed former Speaker of the House of Representatives and Chief of Staff to the President, Femi Gbajabiamila, to secure that appointment. The allegations have generated widespread public attention and debate. However, the presidency has firmly denied the claims, insisting that the Presidential Foreign Intervention Promotion Council is not a recognized government body and does not exist under the current administration. It has also dismissed any purported appointment linked to the council and urged the public to disregard claims associating it with the presidency. Against this backdrop, we'll be asking key questions, and these are questions citizens are asking out there despite explanations from the presidency. In fact, it appears that the more they explain, the more questions citizens are raising. What are the facts behind these allegations? Have any credible evidence been presented to support claims on both sides? What are the implications for public trust? Because public trust is on the scale here. Accountability and integrity of public institutions, especially that of the presidency. And another case of forgery will come under review on the program today. That's the arrest of former Minister of Science, Technology and Innovations, Uche Nnaji, by the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission, ICPC, in Abuja. Uche Nnaji was arrested following a bench warrant issued by a federal high court against him over an alleged forgery of a University of Nigeria degree certificate. But our interview segment will not be on these issues. It will be on the uploading of candidates' names to the portal of the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, by the different political parties. This indeed is a very crucial part of the 2027 electoral process. Citizens are desirous of education, the role of the parties, the uploading of candidates' names to portal, and all the processes that will follow through. Now, I'll be joined by someone who knows and understands these processes very well. A very senior lawyer, former Attorney General and Commissioner for Justice in Edo State, and former Director of Voter Education and Publicity at the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, Oluwole Osaze Uzi. He will join us to provide clarifications and education. As usual, I'm joined by my colleagues, Mustafa Mohammed and Uju Ejeye. Let's start from the presidency. Allegations of bribery and denials and counter-denials all around Femi Gbajabiamila, Chief of Staff to the President.
He who alleges has the burden of proof. 400 million naira is not something that you remove from your back pocket and give it to somebody else. And this kind of allegation is a very grave allegation. If he fails to prove this grievous allegation against a very senior official of the presidential villa, the chief of staff, there are basically two things. Criminally, he will be liable, and then the chief of staff against whom he is alleging all this financial impropriety can sue him in a civil matter. And when a government administers the various parastatals and ministries under its own administration, it has the number, it has the list, it has everything about every government agency and parastatal. When ministers were sworn in, everything is there in the news for people to see. When DGs of parastatals and chairmen of boards of parastatals are sworn in, you see these things in the news. But I can't remember seeing the swearing in of Adeyemi into any office by any government official. I don't know if you people as colleagues in the media have seen that. Since they said his claim is false, you definitely know that will lead to another allegation of forgery. It's a very serious crime too under our system.
Would you?
I think that Mustafa has made some valid points this morning. I mean, we've seen the appointments, the swearing in of heads of agencies, of government.
This is a council, not more of an agency.
Yes, but again, when such council comes into existence, it should be. No, I mean, you're talking about a presidential advisory council. Now, nobody knows how that came about, and the presidency has, I believe, done the right thing by coming out to clarify issues. Because you see, when you leave things at rumor level or you leave things at guess level, that's when people begin to come up with all kinds of theories, conspiracy theories and all of course, that would be the first thing a typical Nigerian would think of because of the lack of trust in leadership in this country, because of also the way they have related with Nigerians and the way they have not been very, very transparent. But in this case, the presidency came out immediately to say, look, this is our own stand. We don't know this man. The chief of staff has no business with him. Now, whatever gave him the impetus, whatever gave him the boldness to float such a body and to even be, carrying out transactions and, dealings with that council, let him come out and tell Nigerians, where did he emanate from? Where did the council emanate from? The bribery in question. Provide evidence and let's see.
Now, there are several issues here begging for clarification. This Adeyemi, who claims to be the DG of Presidential Foreign Intervention Promotion Council, had dealings with almost every other government institution, including the central bank where accounts were opened, including having an office at the Federal Secretariat Complex in Abuja, including having approved staffers, including having a budget line in our national budget.
Wow.
The reallocated budget in the 2026 budget, including recognitions by the National Assembly. Both chambers of the National Assembly, their committees, had official communications and dealings with him. He had official dealings with the EFCC chairman. And some people will come and tell us he's fictitious and all that.
Then
you begin to wonder.
Exactly.
Let me establish the basis. You begin to wonder what kind of human being this would be. I said at the beginning of this program that if you go through the explanations from the presidency, instead of trying to douse the issues, it has even raised more. And these issues border on public trust. Because I've listed the institutions that this man dealt with and what happened. He had account with the central bank and they said, oh, he deceived. So he deceived everybody. One thing tells you there are collaborators in high places.
In other words, there is no smoke without fire. And if truly he has had dealings with all of these arms of government, including the legislature, then there is really something amiss. And I think that that's what we also need to unearth as a nation. Maybe the security agencies should go to work, investigate. But since they are involved again, I wonder who will investigate them.
You see, the government said this person has been under investigation by the security agencies, by the investigative agencies before his outburst. So what are you going to believe? Are you going to believe what he says? Somebody who is under investigation? Of course, investigation does not mean guilt. But like I said before, if any head of parastatal, chairman of council or any agency is sworn in either at the council chamber of the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria or any conference hall of the ministers or heads of parastatals, definitely that will be in the news. And then secondly, you cannot build something on nothing. So since the government has denied him, of course, he may not have any basis. And going beyond that, you see, country like Nigeria, we have a lot of smart people. They can do a lot of things. I can give you an example. Years back, somebody approached me with a genuine-looking letter from the NNPC of crude oil allocation, asking me to get people, buyers. And I laugh at the person. I say, okay, go and bring a photocopy of this letter. I will get back to you. Living in Lagos with places like Olo Street and what have you, people can produce very good, real-looking letter-headed papers. They can write very smart awards. They can write very smart appointment letters. Don't underestimate.
So these Adeyemi, you presume, wrote these letters, forged them, and all the institutions.
It's possible. In Nigeria, you can do anything.
What does it tell you? That there is a fundamental error in the way our institutions are set up.
For a very long time, remember Bill Clinton said something when he came to the country. Bill Clinton said we need to strengthen our institution. And part of the problem the country is facing at the moment is weak institution. You go to the public offices, you have civil servants who don't have schedules, or you have civil servants with very big names and positions. They don't know what to do. Carry out assessment of what they have done, how relevant they have been throughout the year. You find that they are very weak. There was no output yet. We pay them salaries, we pay them allowances, they get pensions. What kind of public service are we running?
You see, Amechi, I'm beginning to think, that there is more to this than meets the eye. Now, there's certainly something amiss. Now, we ask ourselves, you and I know that you can't just walk up to the Secretariat complex and get an office like that. So who allocated the Secretariat, the office at the Secretariat to him? Who allocated it to him? Who set up that office for him? Because that's supposed to be for government officials and government dealings. Now, what about the dealings with highly placed officials?
Central bank accounts?
The central bank account.
The budget line?
Is the central bank that ignorant that somebody who is fictitious, who is fake, would come and open an account with the central bank? Obviously, the presidency has to do more than what it has done right now. But the presidency has to explain to Nigerians how he was able. I mean, you could say, oh, he's a fraud, he's that, he's that, but
that's what the explanation from the presidency.
Yes, but you see,
they explained that even his forgery, he's being involved with forgery,
so
didn't emanate
he was
today,
able
that
to,
he did it in the past. But the question is,
so he was able to forge with the central bank, forge with the National Assembly, forge with all those highly placed government officials and their offices, forge to get allocated an office at the government secretariat, for God's sake.
And the statement from the presidency didn't speak even one line on how this forgery took place, and whether they are investigating how
or not
this so-called master forger was able to succeed with forgeries across all these institutions. The presidency was silent. And I dare say that this Presidential Economic Advisory Council is not the only illegal body operating in Nigeria. I know many of them that are not backed by law or any statute. What we see is that some interested persons will set it up. use it for some interest, for some agenda, and over time it assumes a life of its own. That is how bad it is.
Or
It's
maybe
not even
man no
that
man.
rogue institutions will operate in Nigeria undetected.
But for a very long
and everybody
time,
continues
remember
as usual.
during Jonathan, former President Goodluck Jonathan, Sanusi Lamido Sanusi at the International Conference Center, in the presence of Okonjo-Iweala, the former finance minister, and so many other credible Nigerians, spoke about subsidy fraud, that monies are being paid as subsidies for fuel that were never imported. Fictitious names of vessels carrying non-existent oil were registered and monies were paid. And at a point in time, about 7 people were arrested in the name of subsidy fraudsters, including the children of some very prominent politicians in Nigeria. So if you are talking about, if you are doubting about what Nigerians can do in terms of forgery, this will tell you that for a very long time, just like you testified, there are a lot of illegal bodies operating. Nigerians, some Nigerians, because we also have more good Nigerians than bad Nigerians, some Nigerians can go to any extent. And since the anti-corruption agencies are investigating, for the presidency to say in its statement how exactly the forgery took place, it's like taking over the job of the EFCC and ICPC and what have you. But then I think we don't have to talk much about this. Let's wait and see the outcome of these investigations and see which direction.
We need to talk more.
No,
about
we need to talk
It's
more
not-
because
it appears some people are trying to sweep it under the carpet, as usual.
And apart
It's already in
from
public
that,
domain.
apart from that, you know, if you were able to have dealings with government officials, like you said, there are a lot of fake bodies, fake this, but you see, those bodies also do not operate in isolation.
Yes.
There must be somebody somewhere
interest.
giving them some small muscle, some interest covering up. There are cover-ups for such organizations, such bodies to run. So who are the allies of this man, this Adeyemi in question?
Is any
Who are
attempt
the
being made
allies?
to unmask them?
Exactly, because we need to find out who his allies are. You can't get through the National Assembly, get through the CBN, get through DSS. DSS who should be investigating and all of that, the EFCC.
They think we are not involved with DSS
I
anyway.
think that
But
we
the-
need to unmask his allies. It's very, very important.
But
because
then,
that is how we can get to the root of
The unfortunate thing is that people are not resigning. People are not being suspended. People are not being queried in all these institutions. And they want us to believe that,
When they are
the
complicit.
problem is the master forger, that they have arrested him and they are prosecuting him, and the problem will end. The
Who
problem
are
will
the
never
others?
end.
No.
The problem is just beginning.
Exactly.
The government in question needs to come clean with utmost explanations to Nigerians who played what role, where rules violated, where laws circumvented, what are the punishments, and they are so silent on this, thinking that we'll sweep this under the carpet.
Who are
as usual.
his allies?
But
Man, no man. How far did it go?
there is another case of forgery, this time involving former Minister of Science, Technology and Innovation, Uchenna Nnaji. Was picked up by authorities at the airport. This said after several summons from ICPC to appear before it. He refused to answer to the summons. A court bench warrant was issued and was executed yesterday. The alleged forgery involves a certificate from the University of Nigeria, the same saga that forced Uchenna Nnaji to resign from the federal cabinet.
Of course, if you want to talk about public officials, it didn't start today. Remember former Speaker Salisu Buhari, who was disgraced out of office. Then the other finance minister who, had a forged, was it NYSC?
It was NYSC, not a certificate.
And so many
Former
finance.
Minister of Finance.
Okay.
Minister of, Finance. You see that Oluole Street for a very long time has had a thriving business in Lagos. I've known university lecturers would forge certificates that various institutions eventually yes, you see, the names in southern part of the country are unisex. Some have even used certificates of their sisters the aunties, because they bear names that both male and female were, and they were teaching, some of them were teaching in higher institutions far in the Northeast, and eventually they investigated, found them wanting, and they were sacked. Of course, I'm not sure if some of them have been prosecuted, but I think the government agencies need to be very thorough when vetting credentials of wannabe, especially politicians like this, because people can go to those printing press and forgery masters to print whatever kind of certificate they, even in the civil service, I can remember a few incidents of people who were, sacked because they had forged certificates. For how long can we continue doing that?
In his own case, I tried to follow that case, but it wasn't quite clear because there are some seemingly conflicting matters coming up from this case. I think that Nsukka came out to deny that they didn't issue any certificate to him, but that he was a student at a point in time. So which means that he was a student at UNN. But the problem is that they claim that he did not graduate and they did not issue the certificate. So it may not be totally a case of Oluwole, but I think that there is more to it that meets, to this case that meets the eye, because the man also appears to be at loggerheads with the current VC of that great institution. That's your alma mater, so I do not know. I may not be able to comment strongly on this, but since investigations are on, bench warrant, all of that, and he did not show up. Now that they have him, that gives them an opportunity to conduct a thorough investigation and go to Nsukka and find out, did he drop out of school? What really happened from when he was a student to this point?
We don't have to be soft on this matter. Doctor, it's your alma mater. I think we don't need to be soft on this matter. Once the VC and the university came out and said he has not graduated, what other investigation are we carrying out? It's a dropout, it's a dropout. Whatever certificate he claimed to have gotten from an institution which said he's not a graduate, it's a false certificate.
So it's a matter of a prosecution. Of course, exactly. He will have his day in court.
And he has the right to defend himself.
Yes, he has the right to defend himself. He's still presumed innocent, by the way. So wait and cross our hands.
And Nigerians would really want to hear from him.
What will happen at the end of the day. Now, let's take a break. When we come back, we'll take a look at the electoral process. Very important stage we are in now. Political parties are uploading names of candidates to INEC portal, an innovation that we've tested in the past is done digitally now. We'll have someone who understands the processes very well, Oluwole Osazeuzi, former director of publicity and voter education at INEC, will join us to provide information and clarifications. Do stay with us.
Stories now break online. Don't miss anything from our real-time updates and exclusive content. Follow and participate in discussions on live TV studio programs to shape the narratives. Subscribe, engage, and share from AIT.live at AIT_online on X, AIT Online on Facebook, official AIT Live on Instagram, TikTok, and Threads on YouTube. Stay connected with AIT, on air, online, online.
Get ready for a bold new chapter in political discourse. The conversations that matter most are stepping into the spotlight like never before. Political platform, the hard-hitting, no-holds-barred program you have trusted on Raypower Radio is making a powerful move to television. Tune in to Africa Independent Television, AIT, as political platform debuts on your screen, bringing deeper analysis, sharper debates, and the voices shaping our nation's future right into your screens. From policy and politics breakdowns to real-time discussions with key stakeholders, this is more than a program. It is where opinions are tested, truths are uncovered, and the people's voice is heard. Join seasoned hosts and expert guests as they tackle the issues that define our democracy. No filters, no distractions, just real talk. Political Platform, now on AIT, 9 to 10 a.m. every weekday. Stay informed, stay engaged, be part of the conversation.
Much for staying with us. A critical stage in our journey to the 2027 general election. After the conclusion of primaries by the different political parties, it has come to a stage where they are to send the names to INEC, not manually, but digitally. INEC has provided codes for parties to upload the names of their candidates to the portal, and expectedly, there have been controversies. Some parties have in this changed names, substituted names, and giving reasons and all that. But we have someone joining us to offer education, offer perspectives, and clarifications on how these processes do work out. Uluola Sazeuzi is a senior lawyer, served as Commissioner for Justice and Attorney General of Edo State, and worked for a long time at INEC as Director of Voter Education and Publicity. He also worked briefly as Director of Legal in INEC. He's
not briefly. I was Director of Legal.
Okay, worked as Director of Legal and INEC, so he understands the legal processes, and it also takes out time to undergo teaching. Are you still on that line?
I do serve as a resource person, but not as a teacher.
Okay. So a crucial stage, I said, in our electoral process, upload of candidates' name to INEC portal.
Yes. Yes, that is in consonance with the law that all political parties should conduct primaries and submit their list of candidates to the commission. It doesn't speak about uploading to a portal. It talks about submission of list of candidates. So INEC, in its own discretion, can decide how it wants to receive the list. Prior to now, in previous cycles, this was done manually. You pick up, for the party picks up the forms, the parties give it to their candidates who go to the Federal High Court or High Court of the state. They post an affidavit that all the information they've given are correct, and then submit through their parties back to the commission. But about 3 cycles ago, as part of the digitalization process, said, why don't we do this online? Why don't we upload things electronically, digitally, rather than that manual process? So if you had come to the commission, say about 2007, you'll see piles and piles of paper forms submitted by the political parties. I think they still have to do that manually, but first of all, they have to upload. Each party is given a code. Once your parties, you have indicated interest, you're given a code. You conduct primaries and commission monitored primaries, you're given a code, and the forms and lists of all the parties' candidates and the forms are uploaded. The EC9, I think it is, are uploaded to that dedicated platform for it.
Okay, let's look at the parties now. They have conducted their primaries, but none of them published names of winners. They held it close to their chest. When we made inquiries, they said by law they are not required, or they are not mandated to announce results. That what the law dictates is that they should upload. And now they're uploading. There are issues of, these are not the people that won the primaries and all that.
Well, I don't know. It is true that the primaries are conducted, except it's by consensus. You either do consensus or you do direct primaries. And when you do direct primaries, you're actually supposed to declare a result. But I think those results,
direct primaries only.
Yes. Consensus, there's a process for consensus outlined in the Electoral Act. But the Electoral Act says that if you're doing by consensus, then it outlines a procedure. But if it's direct primaries, it's according to the guidelines of the individual political parties. You have to revert back to the guidelines and constitution of the parties. But I do believe some parties, NDC for example, did publish a list of its successful candidates. It did publish. It did publish to its members. It did. I'm aware of that.
Okay.
But not immediately after the primaries. Not like what you started.
My question wasn't whether it was published immediately. The question was that someone did not publish the list of winners. But in any case, in every center where elections took place, results were announced. because most of the guidelines say results should be announced, but they tell you that it's like a provisional result. And because they also have to follow an appeal process.
Yes.
And then it's that appeal process at the end that they now publish the list of the successful candidates. But unless and until, so there's a result, but it's not official until it's stamped as well.
That's the explanation APC gave for the change of certain names, the likes of Gabriel Sosua and others. They say they put them through an appeal process and at the end of the day, reach the conclusion that they are not the ones that should be uploaded.
Yes. I can't speak about individual political parties, but is that process I've outlined? You don't have a candidate for the party until it passes through the internal processes once the direct elections. So the first is voting, counting of the votes, announcing of the, let me call it an interim result. And then any aggrieved person, aspirant, can now use the internal mechanisms of each political party, especially their appellate process or whatever mechanism they have put in place, and go there. And sometimes the appeal process will be, we're not satisfied, we cannot, the election is inconclusive. I read about some parts said the election is inconclusive, go back and conduct another primary if it's within the deadline by INEC for that purpose. So until you pass through that process, even in the general election, these days, once a result is announced, the commission still has a 7 days window to validate what has been announced
and review the result.
To review that result. So that was an introduction brought in by the 2022 Electoral Act and retained in the 2026 Act.
Is it possible that some of the results being uploaded, the list being uploaded, can be tampered with at any point in time? And what are the safety measures?
Tampered with by
by whoever, maybe
by the political party, by the commission,
possibly by the political parties.
By the political parties, by interested
persons. Can you tamper with your own list? That's why I'm just wondering. That's why
I mean, in uploading, between the party uploading and INEC, what are the safety measures that INEC has put in place to ensure that once those things are uploaded, they cannot be tampered with or changed by anybody, whether internally or externally?
Usually there's a contact person, a liaison officer from each party, and you go to validate these things all the time. And the person is in Abuja, and it's in constant, daily contact with the officials of INEC. They were trained, by the way, and
yes, there was some training prior.
There was a training put through a process, and you also submit a manual one. So if there's any discrepancy, that can very, very easily be sorted out. But I think it's a secure channel of communication anyway. But since it's a human endeavor.
Did you say it's secure? Because recently something happened at the INEC. Somebody who is a politician working with the minister, we learned was able to access the information and public online. So how secure can we say the INEC system is?
Well, I'm not so sure. The facts are not certain. So I think an investigation is going on about that. I don't speak for the commission. But what I read was that he published something and which seemed to be a back-end view of a portal. So I don't know whether he had access or whether I was given access, whether I had access, or whether somebody in the back end shared that with him. The investigation...
That's what the commission said.
Yes, so that's why I said the facts are not certain yet. So we will have to, and quite honestly, we don't have any contrary view about that. Just people extrapolating and thinking that may have been, and it may be correct, it may not be, I don't know, but maybe the investigation will bring that on out. But it's a human thing. Anything that's online has risks of interference. I mean, we've seen even in the US where, do we remember Cambridge Analytica, for example?
Yes.
And you hear stories of 17-year-old kids from their bedroom hacking into some of the most secure websites or online portals. Servers, exactly. So I mean, I'm not going to say that it's 100 proof. Nobody can say that.
Well, I think that INEC came out to, INEC actually accepted that one of its officials, was involved, but the name was not
and that they're investigating. But it appears the Electoral Act empowers the political parties, gives it so much room to maneuver in terms of choice of candidates. But we're also aware that the candidates, the aspirants who feels aggrieved, have a window to challenge the internal processes of a political party, especially as it relates to candidate selection after primaries in court. So where does one stop and where does the other start?
That's a tough one. The truth is that progressively, well, I don't know whether that's the correct word really, we have seen the window to challenge certain things whittled down by successive electoral acts. And it's very bad for the system, if you ask me. Let me take that example you've given now. If you look at section 29.5, prior to now, what it says, the old law, prior to 2022 and retained 2026, the old law said anybody, you publish a list of candidates and their particulars, what they call the EC9 forms now, and anybody can challenge that if there's false information given, any false information given, anybody can challenge that. But since 2022, retained 2026 Act, only persons who were aspirants in that political party can now challenge false information. Let me show you how it has been narrowed down. Now, before any person, you don't even have to be a voter. Any person in Nigeria, it doesn't even say Nigeria, so any person from anywhere could challenge the falsity of information supplied. Now, nobody can do this. Limited, not just limited to party members and those who
were involved in the primaries
as aspirants in the primary. So if there's parallel primaries, you didn't take part in his own primaries.
And there's a 14-day window.
There is a 14-day window for all pre-election matters by the Constitution. So you see, that has been whittled down considerably. And then also the subject matter. Before, for example, if you submitted a false, let's say marriage certificate or any false certificate, that was sufficient. But now it has to be a certificate that deals with constitutional requirements. So it's not just the falsity. If you falsify your age, if you're 40 years old, but you say you are 35 or you're 45, it appears it doesn't matter.
But you know, part of the amendments the National Assembly made to the 2026 Electoral Act, they removed certificates, issue of fake certificates as a basis to challenge a candidate's emergence on pre-election basis.
No, they did not remove that. What they did was remove it as a ground for post-election.
Okay,
as
for
a ground
post-election.
for petitions.
Okay.
And that is ridiculous. Because the Constitution separates qualification and disqualification. It deals with those two in two different sections.
That's in the Constitution.
That is the Constitution itself. And those things are not self-executing. In other words, technically, and the courts have held that INEC cannot disqualify somebody based on those things. So, if you have a grouse against age or nationality, or as ridiculous as that might sound, if you present a false certificate, as your lead story before now said, a former minister who we hear was interested in elected positions in the state submitted a false degree certificate, who can challenge that in an election? I had a discussion earlier. It's a problem. Only somebody, if he was to contest, only somebody who took part as an aspirant in his political party can challenge that. Prior to now, anybody could have challenged that. The university could have, anybody in Nigeria could have challenged that. Now, nobody can. Two, the courts have now said, even if he was to contest election and won now, he'll be sworn in. Because the court said you must first of all go charge him to court and convict him before you now come back. Even if he admits to INEC that, hey, INEC, I submitted a false certificate to you last time I contested, or this time, he still will not be or cannot be disqualified.
And he may have assumed immunity by that time.
Exactly.
Well, even if you assume immunity, you are excluded from criminal prosecution and certain civil actions. But if it's as a result of, if it was prior to 2026, any candidate could have challenged him and said, you presented a false certificate to INEC, so you're disqualified. Recall Salisu Buhari. He cleared all the things. We did not know he submitted his false certificate. But because of pressure, he now had to resign. If he was to contest today, he probably could possibly be qualified to contest. Nobody except somebody in his political party challenges him in that regard.
Don't you think that this has very negative implications for the polity?
You're asking me. I thought that's a rhetorical.
I know,
That's a
we are
rhetorical
Nigerians.
question.
Well,
But you should bring
Nigerians.
somebody from the National Assembly who supported and who passed this law to do that. Those are the ones who should answer that question. I don't know. It didn't come from anywhere. I attended some of the public hearings.
Yes.
That, as far as I'm aware, was not one of the issues canvassed by stakeholders. It didn't come from the commission. It did not come from CSOs. So where did they bring it from? Until that it passed and became law, we did not see that. So it's something they just sat down in their chambers, hallowed chambers they call it, and cooked up this thing and then submitted to Nigerians.
Now,
I saw some lawmakers are also protesting and they're complaining till tomorrow.
but they didn't. They just had their say. The majority had their way. Now, for clarification, aspirants, what grounds do they have apart from issue of falsification to challenge the action of a political party? If, for instance, they claim, because so many of them have threatened to go to court, and they can't go to court till after names have been uploaded. That's when you now see that there's an injury. If they believe or lay claim to the fact that they won the primary, and the party, using its own internal review processes, disagrees and uploads a different name, what legal openings are there for the candidate? Or is it down to the discretion of the party as to who won the primary?
Not quite. First of all, let me clear that point. There are cases, re-election cases in court already, because it talks about 14 days from the occurrence of the event complained about. So already primaries have been conducted in some locations. It's alleged that there were parallel primaries.
Yes.
So those cases are already in court because the cause of action arose when the primaries were conducted. So that set is there. There's another set of pre-election cases that will come from the submission of the names of the candidates. Another set will come from the publication.
Yes.
So, but you must be careful to ensure that yours falls within particular guidelines. Because if you're 1 day out, 1 minute out, you cannot ventilate. You'll be statute barred, constitutionally barred from taking. But yes, if you are parallel primaries, for example, you better just go right away from the 29th of May that some parties conducted their primaries. Time began to run for those ones. Some 29, I think the last day was 29th or 30th. 30th was probably the last day, 30th of June, given by INEC for that purpose. So it's basically if you. First of all, it has to be primaries conducted by the national executive of the party. So if you are relying, I have a case, for example, where a claimant claims that, plaintiff says, we waited for the national, we did not see them, so the state conducted the primaries when in the absence of national. That is invalid.
The court has always said it's the national that conducts
If they give the state the power to, or any other committee, which it usually does, that is okay and valid. So, but basically, you must take part in primaries. If you say there are no primaries, then the candidate's name submitted, and your party, if the court finds that really there were no primaries, are out of the ballots.
Okay, what next now? After the upload is ongoing, I think to end by July 9 or 7.
I think 11 or so.
11.
Yes.
So after that, that's the next stage, I presume, should be publication of names.
Correct. Within 21 days of receipt. So if your party submits today, within 21 days, the law directs INEC to publish the particulars of the candidates, not a list of candidates yet. That's the particulars. Yes, the particulars.
For claims and objections.
For claims and objections and claims and objections.
When you say particulars, what exactly do you mean by that?
It's what the INEC calls it for PC9. You know that when they get this code, then they download forms. Then the candidates, the no longer aspirants, the candidates now take these forms, fill the forms, for example, stating their names, their age, showing evidence of their qualification for the office, their certificates, if they so choose, to show that you're educated up to secondary school level. They put all those things, and then you swear to it, and then those forms submitted by the candidates will now have to be, that's what's published. So that you know, so that if, for example, you see that, but this one, we know him in our community now. He did not go to the schools he claims to have gone, or he did not graduate. It's not even up to secondary school level. That is the time to raise the objection. But it's no longer for you and I.
Yes.
So it's
for interested parties.
No. It's well, rather for everybody,
Yes, in
but
quotes.
only the person
Yes.
or those who took part in the primary scan. So, what is the essence of publication? You might as well say they should give this. INEC should give this list to they monitor the congresses and that give rights to candidates.
Yes.
Give them to these people, and then because that's the absurdity of the whole thing.
We have to thank you so much for joining us today to provide this much needed clarifications, because Nigerians are still struggling to have a grasp of this process. But it's become clearer now, and as the different political parties conclude the upload of names of successful candidates, we have to thank you so much, Oluola Sazeuzi, former Director of Publicity and Voter Education at INEC, for giving us this privilege.
Thank you for having me.
And we go straight to our feedback segment now. We have your mails coming in through our email platform. Ugochukwu Anusiongu from Lagos says, it beats me holo how a Prince Adeyemi Adeniyi Matthew operated as a DG of a non-existent Presidential Foreign Intervention Promotion Council for 2 years without raising alarm. This man hosted foreign dignitaries, investors, ambassadors of nations, opened a CBN bank account, have an office at the Federal Secretariat, alleged to have forged the signature of the Chief of Staff to the President, opened 34 bank accounts, etc. He did all this without a red flag, and he had security details. Is Nigeria not a failing state like this? Now that he has been caught, the denials and letters have started flying. How many of such agencies exist as a cash cow? We should reduce these redundant agencies, as suggested by Justice Uwais during the CONFAB, that's the National Conference, to avoid such anomaly. It is well with Nigeria, he concludes.
Emekamba writing from Abuja, and he says, just when you think you've seen it all in Nigeria, especially with our leadership, more unbelievable, stranger than fiction occurrences, some so beyond comprehension, continue to unfold right before our eyes. The presidency wants us to believe that Mr. Adeyemi Matthew created and operated a fictitious federal government agency, allegedly forged presidential appointment documents, secured an occupied office space at the Federal Secretariat in Abuja, convened meetings with foreign diplomats and Nigerian stakeholders, successfully secured central bank accounts through the Accountant General of the Federation, and had been successfully running the so-called fake Federal Council for a long time now. To pull off this world-class, high-wired alleged fraud successfully, I think Mr. Adeyemi Matthew deserves a place in the Guinness Book of World Records. And Dixon Eka, also writing from Abuja, he says, what type of democracy are we practicing in Nigeria? The APC's style of replacing those that won primary elections with preferred candidates of those in government, like the case of Suswan and others in Benue, is in itself a big offense. It could be said that the APC adopted bureaucracy instead of democracy, and that's not good for democracy. INEC monitored the primary and knows who won. Hence, the supposed umpire should accept only those that won the primaries they monitored. Those who are strong in government should also be strong in grassroots to win elections, but not just in the office of the national chairman. APC must not set bad precedent in all facets of political engagements.
Thank you so much for the mails. Bureaucracy, that's the party using its might to determine the outcome of a primary election. That's negating democracy. That's what Dixon Eka is saying. It appears our laws empowers the parties to do and undo. That's why at some point it was said that a political party can field a goat as a candidate, and there's nothing you can do about it. But there are some things you can do. Yes.
And
absolutely.
The people, the interested parties, once affected, should explore all of those, measures. Okay. Yes.
Well, we'll leave it at that. Thank you so much for joining us today. We'll return tomorrow, the very last edition for the week. But till then, keep out of trouble and don't be a forger. Stay with the law. My name is Amici Anapwe.